Today we are reacting to things in Minecraft you cannot unsee. Like your eyes, like they just like can't like you look at it and you're like just wow. Like I will just see that for the rest of my life. Wow. So yeah, let's just hit play and just watch
From
it.
hidden faces in blocks to reused textures,
Oh,
here
wow.
are the craziest Minecraft details you can't unsee. When you eat, particles of the food you're eating fly out of your face
Okay,
for every
so
item.
let me
Unfortunately,
turn
that
the
also
volume
includes
up.
all of the soup items, despite the fact that most of their texture is a wooden
Oh.
bowl. That means that you're
You're
literally
eating
eating
the
the bowl that your
bowl.
soup is in. Man, I guess Steve was that hungry. Minecraft cats are disgusting! When a cat sits down, its back body actually sinks through the ground. You can see this clearly by going into spectator mode. Now, you may be
What?
thinking that dogs have this same problem too, but not really. When you sit a
It
dog,
goes
only a
through the
tiny part of
ground?
their back body
Bro.
goes through the ground as compared to the cat. If you look closely at the warden's
I
head,
actually
you'll
never
notice
noticed
two
that.
pairs of antennae. These antennae closely resemble the feathery external gills
Oh.
that extend from an axolotl's head, leading some to speculate that
It
they
does
might
kind
be
of look
related.
like
One of the creepiest hidden details in
axolotl
Minecraft is the
looking
fact that you
things
can
on his head.
occasionally see a wither
The
face
wither
when
is
staring
in
at a floor
bedrock.
of bedrock. It can be a bit hard
Not the
to
version,
spot,
but
but it
like
has
the
a
actual
random
block.
chance of happening on the border between blocks.
That's crazy.
Is this an intentional Easter egg added by the developers,
Oh,
or is it just
it's a wither
random
skeleton
accident?
skull.
I
I
don't
thought
know,
that
but
was the
either
wither,
way,
one of the
I'm
wither
definitely
heads.
gonna overthink the lore
Okay.
implications of this. You might have
That's
to
a
use
lot
your
of money.
imagination a bit for this one, but take a look at this raw copper. If we tilt it sideways in the item frame and really
That
squint our eyes
sucks!
at it, it
No!
sort of looks
No!
like...
No!
Yeah,
No!
just like
No!
that.
No!
Don't forget
Guys,
to
I actually like
subscribe.
iron
If you look
blocks.
around the
When I
top edge
first
of
started
cut copper,
Minecraft,
you'll
I used to
notice that
think it
half
was
of
a
its sides
mushroom
connect
because it actually
correctly,
did,
but
like
half
the
of
raw
them,
iron.
well, they look like this. Somehow the
It's
lighting
not
direction is completely opposite
center.
between the sides and top of the block. It also makes it clear on some
Ugh!
sides of the block
It's
just look
not
like they're different
centered.
sizes, which is so cursed. If you load up the Programmer Art resource pack, which has all of Minecraft's old textures from before the texture update,
that
you'll
probably
notice
gets
that both cut sandstone and red cut sandstone look like they have a number 2 on it. Maybe it's just a random accident, but seriously, that really
I
looks
have
like the number
noticed
2. When you consider that
I don't
these
know
are found
how.
in
It's
desert
like
temples, it really makes me wonder if an ancient
Wait, what? This is
civilization
old
was
version.
trying to tell us something. 2
I've
plus
only
2
played like the new
equals
version because old version.
Crack the code someday. There are several mob heads you can obtain in game, but only 2 of them are actually hollow. As you can
What?
see when we look underneath every mob head in the game,
Only the
skeleton
skeletons are
and
hollow.
wither skeleton
The
skulls
skulls.
are the only
I mean,
ones
that
we
makes
can
sense.
see inside of. I always thought
Because-
the bottom of skeleton
no.
skulls were just completely
Inside
closed
of your
off.
head is
Since
hollow.
Minecraft skins can't have
Because the-
transparent
I
textures,
don't-
it'd be great if Mojang let us do something like this on our own player skins. Though
What?
I guess everyone would just make themselves fully invisible and cheat on servers. Maybe not the best idea.
I'm pretty
Ever
sure if
since
you
the
do that,
enchantment
your
glint
whole
was
skin
removed
will
from
just
potion
turn, like,
items, it's
either,
been
like,
much more
white
apparent that lingering potions kind of look a
think
bit
it
like
was-
hot air
no,
balloons when they're
'cause-
flipped upside down. The
A
only
hot
thing they're
air
missing
balloon.
is a tiny basket underneath to carry us away. In every other sense, it's the perfect shape. A bit small though. For years,
Bro,
people have
that's
asked
sick.
Mojang to let us cook eggs in furnaces.
cook
It
an
looks
egg.
like they finally
It would be cool if
listened.
you can,
Well,
though.
kind of, because
They
if you
ne-
look at the
Oh.
top part of an Oxeye Daisy, you'll notice that it has
Well,
a
I have
very
actually
strong
noticed that.
resemblance to a cooked egg. If you used
And
your
it does
imagination,
actually
you
look
could
like
maybe
an
say
egg.
that an Oxeye
There was
Daisy
this one
in an
other
item
flower,
frame
it
is just an
literally looked
egg
like a
sitting on a
lollipop.
plate with a green fork
I
to
forgot
eat it with.
what it was
I mean,
called. It
that's
was
a
like
weird
pink.
looking fork, to be honest. But look,
Not
it's
the
close
bushes,
enough.
but-
There's a painful bug with pillager outposts that has existed since they were added all the way back in
Did
the
you say a
1.14 village and update. And it's insane Mojang hasn't fixed it yet. If you look at this corner of
Is
the
that
roof
actually
on any
possible?
pillager
Or is it
outpost,
just like-
you'll notice that there are 2 blocks missing, making the entire roof asymmetrical in shape. Mojang would literally just
It
have to
actually
place
makes it
down
look
2
better, in my
blocks in order to
opinion.
fix
Like,
this. And
some
yet
blocks
the bug
are
has
just
remained in the
missing,
game for over
slash
6
destroyed.
years. Look, I'll fix it myself. 1, 2, see? Not that hard! The door item textures are completely wrong. If you look at the
Jesus,
oak and
not
iron
work.
door item textures, you'll notice
Oh,
that
yeah, there
fewer squares
is-
on the bottom half
isn't
of the
there
door.
no
The
handle?
block has 6 squares, whereas the item only has
Oh.
4. Additionally,
I
you'll notice that the
wait.
door handles of
Since
these
when
doors
was there
are
a handle on the
way too
item
high
frame
in the item
door?
texture. It would honestly make much more sense if it was just 1 pixel lower. But hey, I guess it's
What?
hard to
Since
fit
when
all
did
that
they add a
detail
door
into
on the
such a
item
tiny
frame
texture.
version
Levers
of
and
the item
torches
door?
are hiding a dark secret.
A
If
door
you've ever
handle, I
thought levers and
If I
torches
said
look
that.
similar, you're not wrong. Taking a closer look, we can see that most of the texture for levers and torches is actually exactly the same. And the top of the torch was just changed to grey in order to create the texture for levers. I mean,
It's
even when you
just
place
the
a
fire
lever
in the
down, it
stone.
kind of looks like a torch with a fancy holder. Once you've noticed this, it's hard not to look at the lever and imagine it as an unlit torch that burned out. By placing a lead into an item frame, you might notice that it looks a bit like the number 9. But by placing a second item frame to the left of
The
it,
number
putting a lead
6.
inside,
I
and
know
then
it.
rotating it
Yep.
upside down, you end
It's
up
the
with
number
a 6.
6.
Do you recognize this mob's goofy little face? Probably not.
It's a
because it's
llama.
actually just
Yep,
the
I
nose
knew
of
it
a
was the
llama.
snout.
That's right. If you
They do
isolate
kind of
just
look
the
like a
nose of
face,
llama,
though.
it kind of looks like a derpy little shulker face. This is
Yeah.
especially noticeable on the llama's spawn egg, since spawn eggs don't have eyes. You look so stupid. Do you know that? Why am I putting steak on the
Camels,
ground? Well, if
do
you
that
look at
too,
how
I
I've laid them out, you can see that they somewhat resemble footprints on the ground. The lines on the
Sure.
steak are a bit like the lines on the
You need,
bottoms
like,
of
some
boots.
darker dirt.
And if you use this on dirt or mud,
Yes.
the color is a perfect match
Yeah,
to make
especially
them look
the mud, it
authentic.
does not
If you
look
like building with bricks, you may want to skip this part of the video
Maybe
because
pork
I'm about to
chops.
ruin every build you've ever made in your life. If you take a look at the top edge of the brick's texture,
Oh,
you'll
it's
clearly
not
see how on one
centered.
side of the block, the white pixels just
Minecraft,
don't line up with the texture on top.
Why?
Look at that, it's horrible.
Yeah.
This mistake makes me want to take a brick and throw it at my computer. The same is
Oh.
true for nether bricks, red nether bricks, and even resin bricks. Good luck trying to unsee that. If you look at the border
gosh.
between deep slate blocks, you'll notice that sometimes this mushroom shape
A
appears.
mushroom?
It can be a little
Oh,
hard to
wait,
spot, but if you see it next to an actual mushroom in an item frame, the comparison
it's
is much
literally
clearer. I guess it
almost
makes sense that
identical.
deep slate could actually have mushrooms in them, since it normally generates so deep below the surface. You definitely know about the face on the observer, and you might know about the
Yeah, I
faces on
think
the dropper
everybody
and dispenser, which look happy and surprised. But did you know that the crafter block also has a face? These tiny 2 lines are the eyes, and the big shutter where the items come
All
out
the
is
blocks
the
are
mouth. He
just
sort of
like
looks a little
those
nervous or
redstone
angry, and the
combobber
metal frame makes him
looking
look like
dropper
he's wearing a netherite helmet.
spit
I don't
out-
know why Mojang keeps
spit
adding
out
face to
item-
redstone
Blech.
components, but
It just has a
definitely
face.
makes me feel less alone in my single-player world. Most of the chiseled blocks in Minecraft have a mob-related design on them.
Yes.
Sandstone has a creeper, red sandstone
yeah.
has a wither, nether bricks has a wither skeleton, polished blackstone has a piglin snout, resin bricks has a creaking,
That looks
and
like an-
tuff has
I
the
don't even
breezes
know they
wing.
have
So you might
mouths,
assume
do
that
they?
chiseled deep slate, which is found in ancient
I don't think
cities,
they
would have a
do.
design related to the warden on it. But instead, well, it kind of looks like a pufferfish. I mean, that's definitely not a warden. It looks way more like a
does look like a
pufferfish to me.
pufferfish
Is this
kinda,
the one
but it's,
creature
like,
that can defeat
puffed
the
out.
warden? Although the goat looks pretty normal when it's
Actually,
standing still, it
yeah.
gets a bit weird when it starts moving. If you pay attention to its hind legs, you'll notice that they kind of detach themselves as a goat
Oh.
walks. Even weirder, however, is the fact that the goat's head rotates in a very broken way. Goats don't tend to look very far up or down normally, but if you force them to look all the way up or all the way down, you'll notice that their head moves
I am
really
never
far away
inviting
from where
a
its
goat
neck is
into my
supposed to be.
house
When
ever
it's looking
again.
all
Nope.
the way down, its
Not
face
happening.
is just buried
I
in the
never
floor.
have done
And
it,
when
I never
looks up,
will.
its head is literally just fully detached, sitting above its tail. I feel like I've done
Ah,
something wrong here. Like many
that's
blocks in the game,
horrible.
the dried kelp block is painfully uncentered, which is pretty hard to unsee. But you're gonna have a much harder time trying to unsee the fact that
That
this thing
always
literally just looks
looked
like a
like a
garbage
stash
bag.
of
A
money.
pile of dried kelp blocks on the ground really
Yeah,
does
it
look
kinda
like it
looks like
belongs inside of a
garbage.
dumpster. And when you realize that, it makes you
A
think
garbage
twice about
bag,
the fact that
like-
this is technically a food
Kinda
block.
looks like money.
Nah, not anymore.
Comment
Azalea
down
bushes
below,
are
does it
secret
look like
you
money
probably didn't
or
know.
a garbage
Hiding a
bag?
face? Now,
Because-
if you look all around, you most likely won't find
Oh.
it. But if you section off the bottom half of one, you'll find what looks
That's
like a
literally a
surprise face.
face.
Surprise! There are several blocks in
Oh.
Minecraft that look like logs, but aren't logs.
Where are
This
the
is
bees
mainly
at?
due to the really iconic top texture that logs have. The textures on top of polished basalt, quartz pillars,
wait,
bee
they're
nests,
literally
ancient
just
debris,
all
and
logs.
reinforced deep slates all look nearly identical to a log. Looking at the quartz pillar and pale oak logs side by side,
Hey.
it's honestly hard to tell them apart. It's great inspiration for making your own custom trees. You can really get creative
A
with it. If you
copper
place a
pipe.
mob head on top of a purple pillar, you'll have a piglin buddy with 8-pack abs to hang out with. Man, he looks so chiseled.
Wait,
You
what
lift,
the-
buddy old pal? Probably not, actually.
That's
You don't
crazy.
have arms. Every pig has this cute little curly tail, but if you look at it, it kind of looks like the number 9. Or maybe upside
Without
down, it looks more like the
fully
letter
number
G?
9.
G9. Wait, I think it's a code! What are you trying to tell us, little piggy? We can't keep your secrets forever. Some of the glazed terracotta textures have hidden shapes in them when they're tiled. Obviously, white glazed terracotta looks like the sun, and lime looks like an actual sliced lime. But if we take a look at brown glazed terracotta, it looks a bit like a ninja star when it's tiled. I mean, obviously, that would make a little more sense if it were black instead of brown, but the resemblance is uncanny. Man, now I just wish there were actual ninja stars in Minecraft. That'd be awesome. Have you ever noticed how the villager nose is the exact same height as the latch on chest? Technically, the villager's nose is 1 pixel thicker, but besides that, they're kind of the same shape. Hold on, I have a resource pack that makes it easier to see. There, can you see it now? No? Well, how about now? Do you see the comparison now? Do you? If you flip a piece of raw gold upside down, it looks exactly like a rubber duck.
A rubber ducky!
The smaller chunk of gold is the duck's head, and the larger bit is its body. This is so perfect. It feels like one of the developers must have done this on purpose. Hidden in the texture for stone, you can occasionally see this pattern here, which, if you look at it just right, you'll start to see the shape of a pair of sunglasses sitting above a skeleton's nose and mouth. It's a bit hard to make out, but once you do, you'll probably never be able to enter a cave again without noticing this sick guy keeping an eye on you. Cows are adorable and are one of the most iconic mobs in Minecraft. And silverfish are one of the most disgusting, hated mobs in Minecraft. So, how about I ruin both of them by telling you that the cow's nose is actually just a silverfish's face? Yeah,
it's literally identical.
This cow looks like it's literally slurping up a silverfish like a slug. God, I'm gonna make myself throw up saying that. Nothing has destroyed the brains of this generation quite like Among Us. And now, everywhere I look, I see his face. If you place down a regular bookshelf block, you may notice a few familiar
Oh my gosh, they're in the
these
bookshelf.
books
I am
with
never
white
putting
lines on
bookshelves
their
in my house
spines are
ever again.
incredibly sus, and the fact that I can't unsee this book causes me emotional damage. I'm literally never enchanting again. There are several uncraftable tools in Minecraft, including a hammer, a saw, and scissors. What am I talking about? Well, if we take a look at the side of a crafting table, we'll see that all of these items are just hanging around the sides. There are even more unused tools on the sides of a smithing table, like a bigger hammer. Well, look to be chisels and boom!
You have
There's two kinds of plants in Minecraft.
thing that you
little
need
plants
to
and
craft
big
it.
plants. You've got your regular grass and your tall grass, which look appropriately sized
Tall
in the inventory. And then you've also got the regular fern and the tall fern, which don't look as correct. As you can see, the item form of the tall fern is actually a lot shorter than the small fern, despite being twice from placed on the ground. I understand that this is just because the item form of the large fern is just using the upper half of its textures, since it's 2 blocks tall. But don't tell me this wouldn't be confusing if you saw these items without their name tags. If you put the diamond and gold block textures side by side, you can see that they're pretty much identical, just tinted to be a different color. This wouldn't necessarily be a huge deal if it wasn't for the fact that every other one-related block has its own unique texture. From iron to emerald to redstone to copper to lapis lazuli, even netherite. Every single one of these blocks looks totally distinct, and it feels so lazy of Mojang to not just make one extra texture so that gold and diamond don't look so similar.
Oh, they have the same
how
texture.
Often Mojang just reuses textures. If
I was
you look
confused
carefully
for a
at the
second.
textures for redstone, gunpowder, sugar, and glowstone, you'll notice that they're not only the exact same shape, but even have the same texture pattern inside. This is also true of all the ingots, as well as all the bricks. The strangest case of reused textures has got to be for purple, magenta, lime, and grey dye, since these are the only dye items that don't have their own unique appearance. I guess the artist just got lazy after texturing the first 11 dye items and decided to just copy-paste the last 5 to save time. Minecraft had all of its textures updated and changed
not
in
the newest version of
update.
Minecraft,
But there are a few
because
textures
dyes
that
do
have
not
kind
look
of
like
stuck
that
around. For instance,
anymore.
although Bedrock had its texture updated from this to this, the old Bedrock texture is still used for the little Bedrock base that end crystals have. And here's another. When you're in spectator mode, there are these buttons on the bottom of the screen for either teleporting to a player, teleporting to a team, or closing the menu. And they all used outdated textures. This is the old Eye of Ender texture, with the old player head texture on top, and the close button is still the old barrier texture. It really wouldn't be too hard for Mojang to update these, since they're literally reused textures anyway. But it's honestly kind of fun that these old textures are still hidden away in the game's files. This is an ordinary pair of iron boots, but if you place them in an item frame and flip them upside down, they kind of look like AirPods. Of course, these AirPods are a lot cheaper than the real deal, only costing 4 iron ingots instead of like $250. Apparently, tuxedo cats in Minecraft only have one eye. I know, you may think they have
the
two eyes,
legs!
but look
The legs,
If
the
you
legs,
imagine
the
that
legs.
the dark pixel between the cat's eyes is a pupil, and that
Right?
the green
The
pixels
legs.
are the iris, then
Wait,
you start
or
to
am I
see
just
what
like...
looks like a cat with one giant squinting eye.
Oh.
The effect becomes a lot
I
clearer
was
if we
looking at
change
the
this
legs. The
pixel
legs
to
for
be
some
just a
reason
little
looks like
darker.
an eye.
Disgusting. The same is also true for the black cat if you look carefully. Just reinforcing the idea that black cats are, in fact,
I thought he was talking about
some of
the legs.
Minecraft's older blocks still
For
have
some reason,
broken
it just
models
looks
that
like an
haven't
eye
been
to me.
fixed, even after all these years. If you look closely at the base of the lectern, you'll notice that it's slightly hovering, and you can see part of the texture of the lectern's base. The same is also true of the anvil. Close up, it's clear that the texture isn't aligned pixel perfectly. Cauldrons are much more obvious, however, as on each of the four corners of the cauldron's model, you can see that there's a very obvious pixel misalignment that is truly impossible
Okay,
to unsee.
wait, how
There
is
are two
anybody
pickaxes
supposed to
hidden in
know
this
that?
image, one in my hand and one on the ground beside me. It may just look like an ordinary minecart rail,
Oh
but
my
if you
gosh,
look
it's
at the
literally
corner,
a
you'll
pickaxe.
notice that the rounded edge of the
I
track
knew
together
this.
with the middle bar kind of looks
It's
like a stone
literally a pickaxe.
If we remove the rest of the texture and put the two side by side, the comparison is
Wait,
much
now that
clearer.
it's just like
They're not
single
exactly
like
the
that,
same,
it's
but
just
still,
like
you'll
does
probably
not look like
never
a
unsee
pickaxe
this similarity.
anymore.
Command blocks have a broken texture. First of all, on this edge,
Oh, yes.
you'll notice that the pattern doesn't actually connect. It's a little annoying when you notice it.
Wait,
though,
both
to
of
be
them? I
honest,
thought
it's
there's
not
only one.
super easy to spot. What sticks out a lot more is the fact that the little white panels on each side of the block aren't centered at all.
What? Wait, hold up. Guys, look. Right here, they're supposed to... Look, it just, like, completely ends right here. But right here, there's another pixel. Did they just make the command block too small? Or is it just, like, can't fit anything?
The circle one, row one, and the square one, all of them are off-center, with two of their sides being 2 pixels from the edge of the block, and the other 2 sides being 3 pixels from the edge of the block.
Oh
Once you
my
notice this for the first time, you'll literally never unsee it. When placing 2 warped doors next to each other, you'll notice that it kind of creates a scary face. The door handles become the face's eyes, with this upper squiggly line kind of creating the shape of its head, and this lower squiggly line
looks
is
like
even
an
like a mouth
octopus.
or a mustache.
Oh,
Maybe I'm crazy, but
okay,
it
they
kinda
made
creeps
it
me out.
something
Let me know
else.
if you see it too down
Wait,
in the
it
comments
does
below.
look like a
If you look
mustache.
closely at this painting, you might notice that it actually looks like a picture of Rick Astley, though I've also heard some people call it Anakin Skywalker. In reality, it's actually this painting made by Christopher Zetterstrand, which is inspired by this painting by Caspar David Friedrich. Still, even after seeing what it's actually supposed to be, I'm
It's
never gonna
literally
give
the
up
same
calling this
thing.
the Rick Astley painting. Something that's always bothered me is the fact that doors don't actually have a texture for their edges. They just reuse a tiny sliver of the front texture instead. As a result, the appearance of these hinges will often look like they're shifting around, and in a lot of orientations, it honestly looks pretty bad. Like seriously, it's such a small number of pixels to have skipped adding it in. It's honestly just lazy. One of the most annoying inconsistencies in Minecraft has existed since the very beginning of the game. It has to do with almost every helmet in the game. As you can see, helmets have this little nose plate when worn on the head, but in their item form, the nose plate isn't there. This is
wait!
annoying, but
Guys, look! This little thing right here. Why is that there? It's literally not on the helmet right here. But it's right... That makes
fine
no
if it
sense.
was at least consistent, but guess what? It's not! The netherite helmet has a nose plate for some reason, despite the rest not having it. What's the deal with that? Funny enough, the only other helmet that's actually accurate is the turtle shell helmet, which doesn't have a nose plate.
The
so the only
lamest
helmets
one
that make
out
any
of all
sense
of them
are the very
makes
best
the most
and very
sense.
worst helmets in the game. If we place a honeycomb in an item frame and turn it 5 times, we can start to see what looks like a teddy bear. It's a bit hard to see at first, but
what? A teddy bear?
you see it the first time, you'll always notice it. Each of these larger circles is one of the bear's paws. These 2 darker dots are the bear's eyes, and the dot in the center is the bear's nose, with the rest of the texture up here making up the shape of the bear's head. Now when I look at the regular honeycomb sitting in my inventory, all I can see is that teddy bear taking a bit of a tumble, poor fella. If you create a flat wall of deep slate, you can occasionally see this bear face hidden in the texture. If you look hard enough, you can even see a vague outline of a top hat, making the bear look a bit like Freddy Fazbear. I'm not really sure what you can do with this information besides
Okay,
chill.
interesting.
I know Freddy's always watching. To make it
That's
more obvious how the item frame is supposed to be used, Mojang made its item texture look like it has an item inside, instead of just making it empty. If you look at it kind of looks like an iron sword. Maybe it would make more sense if it didn't have anything inside, but I do like this hidden detail. When you have an empty chiseled bookshelf, there are these weird dark lines in the background of the shelf. Now, I've never understood what these are supposed to be, but if you ask me, they look like glossy little eyes peeking out from within the shelves. Lots of people think they actually look like Kirby, which I guess I can see, though personally, I think they look more like ninjas. You can find me in the comments about that, I don't care. If I place down a dragon head, do you notice anything familiar? That's right, these two horns on top of its head are the exact same shape as a stone button. It honestly just looks like Mojang took two buttons, stuck them on top of the dragon's head, and called it a day. Obviously, the textures are a bit different, so they're not perfectly identical, but it's close enough that it makes me wonder why the dragon head isn't in the redstone tab of the creative inventory. In every version before Minecraft 1.21.6, the lectern was the most broken item in Minecraft. That is to say, it was the only item in all of Minecraft that was actually larger than the inventory slot.
Yeah, like this. Look, it literally just like sticks out of the hotbar inventory thingy. It's like, it doesn't fit.